Hope you're well and doing great. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. Hope you all had a great weekend and are ready for a banger week ahead. Started over the weekend with, of course, I shouldn't say President Trump and Z, they get together this Thursday, but the China and the US going ahead and laying the groundwork here for what looks like a layup, for what looks like a arrangement, we'll call it, that is going to be really, really, let's say, conducive to risk into the end of the year, and seasonality is taken off. A lot of people think this could be a sell the news type of event. Like, okay, finally the United States, and whether or not there's actually a trade deal or it's just further accommodation, that remains to be seen. But the point being is that as you saw this weekend with and risk responding so favorably well. By the way, I have to come back to this chart. This chart I'm fascinated by. It's semiconductors by SOXL over gold. And this chart says so much to me. It kind of is depicting what we're looking at as monetary reset is occurring. And we're seeing the tech being illustrated and the battle alongside global reserves and money. Bitcoin is, I mean, Bitcoin, yes, Bitcoin is money. And Bitcoin comes into this equation 100% later on. If you try to price things in Bitcoin right now, it's not really fair. Maybe over the last year, maybe over the last 2 years, but go back, to the last massive flooding of the system, 2020. No, the last bear market, the last correction, 2018 December. No. Point being, look what just back when gold peak over here. Look, if we were looking at this chart and we saw that this cross was back to the global lockdown lows, that really paints a picture of understanding what, how far. I mean, all obviously we're all watching in real time gold shooting the moon, and it just looked obviously very, who wanted to stand in front of it? It had been overbought here since February. It was unbelievable ascent coming out of here. I thought gold had come pretty far pretty quick as it tagged 3,500, and I was looking for a nice pretty decent pullback, which never materialized. And then the breakout, you can see, talk about consolidation underneath resistance. Look at this consolidation, and the breakout was obviously spectacular and went a lot higher than even like the gold bugs. Like, not even say the gold bugs, the I hate Bitcoin deflationary bust coming in 2026. Gold is the only play. People who were looking to, on paper, sell gold over here, thinking that it looked bearish. And then all of a sudden, while I'm long on spot, no one thought this was getting past maybe 39, 4,000 into the whole number, exploding up another 10%. And now finally into pullback. And you can see over here, I just want to go back to the silver, and people were loving it. I was enjoying the price at 54, above 50. I was enjoying that, looking forward to much higher. And I don't think a lot of people think that like gold is done next 18 months. I think gold, and therefore silver by proxy, has just entered into the next accumulation, the next consolidation pattern. And again, we're going to pick up on that next year into about February. Now, for sure, not for sure. The only thing that would suggest that this run on gold is done would be that if you were to see a massive return to growth. Jordan, you see acceleration becoming the next narrative. A lot of people are going to pick up on that into 2026. Right now, the narrative is 2026 recession. It's going to become re-acceleration. That's growth. What makes you think that gold is going to continue its bull run if that's happening? Well, gold is also obviously pricing in the two things. Obviously, it's pricing in just the United States alone, the massive spiral of the debt growth. It's also pricing in the accumulation that's taking place by sovereigns over US treasuries. And it's also, and it's not talked about enough, Deep Powell, you're right. It's also not talked about enough. Tether continues to accumulate a massive amount of gold. Tether is like a money machine. That is the infinite money glitch. And they continue to stack as well. That's a great question, Jay Corer. When is a good place to DCA? The purple line over here is the last resistance, right? You can see resistance, 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 support. You know, a move into that area, I think that's a great place. What about right above it, right? I'm just going to go up to the top. That was the resistance. So there's a good chance that holds. It's around 45, 44, you know? And, you know, do I envision, guys, this is getting exciting. First of all, this week is super exciting. I'm going to come back to silver in 1 second. It's a great question. So far, Atlanta Fed continues their 3 point. We're seeing slowdown and growth. 3.9% GDP, obviously running and beginning to run very, very, very hot. We'll get into our positioning in a second because we have Bitcoin live, we have Ethereum live, we got NVIDIA live, we got FNGU live, and we got the IBITs on a pending into or spot Bitcoin ETFs pending into the end of today. And I was, oh yeah, this week though, right? We have Wednesday the FOMC, huge deal in so much as that if they stop QT and then Powell talks about organic balance sheet expansion. At that point in time, we have to go back and remember what happened in 2019, September. When that happened, that led to what was literally a melt up in risk. A melt up in risk, only stopped by locking down the globe. We have to watch if that's happening, what the pace of that expansion looks like. That should be very conducive to risk. Next, so we've had fiscal dominance in place. You've seen ever since the Fed began tightening in 2022 and went on the sharpest tightening cycle. And then it didn't do anything to risk. Risk kept going up, fiscal dominance. And we said the only thing that's stopping this mid-cycle, wave from continuing, or mid-cycle run, I should say, is if monetary policy remains tight. But now monetary policy is headed in the trajectory of aligning with that further extension out. That could be quite a cocktail. It could be quite a cocktail. I think for me, one of the greatest risks that I saw, I'm moving the bears for sure, was the US-China trade situation. And it sincerely looks like that is now headed in the right direction. And obviously I'm not the person to get into a lot of the details, but it looks like the US is circumventing China as far as relying on rare earth materials. And I think that China potentially had no other option but to go ahead and be like, we'll buy the soybeans. So let's see. If they buy the soybeans, this is going to be extremely bullish. We'll leave it there for now, but we will pick up on the details. It's a big deal. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Z and Trump meeting together, and markets want to see a good outcome. Of course, you have the people that are, bearish at heart. Like some people just, they can't. You got to be able to go both ways. It's a battle at all times. And by the way, the markets are not crashing. Try to not have that doomer mentality. But get past that. That opens up a nice run into the end of the year. And I was very concerned about that. The other last hurdle for me is what happens on Wednesday, and it's not with the FOMC. It's not with the Fed. Like clearly, the Fed is signaling 25 basis points cut coming up on Wednesday, and then in December another one. I suppose that could change, or the only thing that could change there would be if they wound up cutting 75 basis points instead of 50 into the end of the year. That's not my expectations. That's not the market's expectations either. But what's the concern here is, and the dovish surprise is if they stop QT and then Powell starts talking about how they're going to be expanding the balance sheet, but don't worry, it's not really accommodative and it's not really QE. Don't call it QE. and we won't call it QE because it's not outright QE, but it surely is conducive to risk. And then this right over here is the big thing. We have Alphabet, Meta, and Microsoft. And if we see that, I'm not worried or concerned about them missing. I'm not concerned about their guidance going forward. I'm only concerned about what their expectations are for CapEx spending. And that right there is something that could derail the AI narrative if they were to see a surprise. And so that's what we're watching, right? And I imagine it's going to be a bullish outcome. And if so, I think that we see what is known as the Santa Claus rally full force this year. Those two events are the big ones. This is the week. It's a very big week. And yeah, so what's a good place to dollar cost average into silver? I don't know. I mean, is this not a good place to begin dollar cost averaging in with the expectation that it's going lower? Ultimately, if we look, and by the way, the last time that they began that organic balance sheet expansion, that was very, very conducive for not only risk but also gold. So it was a situation where you saw gold rising, Bitcoin rising, even the dollar was rising at that particular moment. And yeah, so yeah, $46 silver sounds a lot better than 54 to me. Do I think that we get lower? Yes, but is this a moment to DCA? And if you were to see a correction, which I don't think, you're not going to not see new all-time highs for 18 months. But regardless, what's your expectations going forward? Do you think the top for gold for the foreseeable future is 4,400? When I say like in 2026, do you not think that gold's going to make a higher high? And if you don't, because there are many people out there who say, "Oh, that's it. They're done. It's done now for 18 months." I don't believe that. And let me tell you something. 18 months from now, I'm gonna be the probably the doomer guy. I know that everyone like maybe everyone's really bullish, but I'm gonna start getting worried. I'm really worried, at some point into the future. And if that's happening, right, that's going to be the time for gold and silver to be doing its thing. Look, I'm bullish on sound money. I'm bullish on gold and silver into the monetary reset, and but Bitcoin's going to outperform them all. So, no. I think that they continue spending. The one concern, the one worry, always look for your risk, is if Meta's like, we spent our war chest, at this point the only way we keep spending is by raising money and we don't want to go into debt, that would be a game changer, right? So look, I think everyone understands. I'm entirely I have a positive expectation, but it's a concern or it's a hurdle, and we need to get out of the way. And that's not going to be any different, next quarter and the quarter after that. We have to continue watching that because that's something that could really derail the current narrative. So 45 on silver or into the pink line would be, I think, there's a good, yeah, I think that's probably support. If that support breaks, at that point, we're expecting a deeper and longer correction. Do you get the opportunity to go lower than that? That's another question. I don't know. So just my like macro stance hasn't changed on gold and silver. Yes, they had come too far too quickly, and this seems like an appropriate time to begin correcting. That yellow line is like that around the time that I would be really looking for a breakout. Look, this one happened sooner than I expected. I thought this correction would go deeper. I thought it was going to go to like 3,000. It didn't happen. And then the breakout on the upside was way higher than I expected. So this is just a guideline. I would not be like, if price has not made a new all-time high by that line, at that point, I'm looking for what could be and leading to a breakout above. That's all. Do we only have one? Come on, Adrian. You're the only person here to step in and step up and show some love. That's not possible. I can't believe that. Um, Japan yen. Oh, what is that? Is that true? I didn't see any headline or article or announcement of that. It's my expectations that probably the U.S. Treasuries will become digital on Ethereum, but I didn't know that. I didn't realize that Japanese yen potentially releasing a CBDC on Ethereum. Ethereum here from the weekly looks good. The weekly has held the yellow line, the breakout. On the daily, not really. We closed below it. Was that bad TA on my part? I don't think so. You just got another like structure right there. Yeah, look at that. It's just perfect. Um, so yeah, like this is the time, by the way. Once they do stop QT, and we don't know that the balance sheet goes the other way. That's my expectation that it will. It could pause, it could stay still, right? That's entirely possible. But if it doesn't, and assuming that not only does QT stop, but the balance sheet begins going back up, can only taper a Ponzi for so long. That last cycle was when Ethereum's time to shine really came into play. I expect more of the same, and of course, if we do run into a major hiccup, then of course, then Bitcoin is king and it's going to suck in all of the liquidity. But that doesn't seem to be the direction that we're headed in right now at all. Again, let's start over here and move towards Bitcoin trading at 100 above $115,000. It looks to me quite sustainable and remains within our sustainable channel. We like that. That's really good. Again, we have over here 55,000 Bitcoin is cheap. And below, you can see the consolidation leading into the election. And the election was a major shift for Bitcoin as far as adoption. US government was not embracing Bitcoin. US government now embracing Bitcoin. It was a major shift, and you saw Bitcoin obviously out of the consolidation, put in a mega. Now, Kamala could win 2028 election, and if that happens, then I suppose we could see a lot of this favorable attitude towards Bitcoin rolled back. Now, that's why the midterms is so impossible, and the midterms is also one of my guiding posts ahead. Depending on how those elections goes is going to have significant ramifications for the markets after that. So we will be watching that. What else do I see on this chart? Some nice consolidation occurring after the April run up. Some nice consolidation in play. Bitcoin into the end of the year, if we get past this week and we got green lights for the bulls to run, it looks like we're going to be enjoying some Bitcoin things into the end of the year. The only thing that I see derailing that is if we get something unexpected to happen Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And hopefully that's not the case. It looks like we have more things aligning with monetary policy aligning. We get some copacetic trade arrangements going between China and the US and that tension out of the way. You see Trump lower tariffs back down. I think they're at 100% right now. And you see the Chinese signal they're buying soybeans. I think we're really going to see a really Santa Claus rally into play. Now, again, other people feel like this is a sell the news type of event, buy the rumor, buy the tension of the trade deal. Whatever for a headline, I suppose. It looks good to me though. We're seeing this is the window where a lot of people are looking for that 4-year cycle to come into play and Bitcoin to be done. So here we have lined up from the halving. A lot of people are asking, well, what happens if you line it up from the low? I got a chart right here, actually. If you line up the cycles from a low, you can see that, well, currently Bitcoin is right on time for peaking as well. And again, my own belief, the way that I'm viewing this is before the 2028 cycle, when lining them up from the low, you're going to see this cycle different in so much as that it's going to be the first cycle, this late in cycle. I don't know how many blocks this would be. This is probably somewhere around, or is this, are those blocks down there or days? But either way, 210,000 blocks, I would say somewhere over or after 150,000 blocks. You never saw a previous cycle outperform one lined up from the having the other. I think we see the black get above the blue as we move towards the 2028 halving. However, this is wrong. This blue cycle is wrong, and I don't like it because you have the top over here in November 2021. However, this blue cycle went on to make a higher high in 2024 and should look something more like this. However, we will see something like that is my belief. So, of course, yeah, we see Facebook come out and be like, we're done spending here. We got to pull back. At that point, you're going to see probably and likely, and it doesn't have to just be Facebook, but probably some turmoil ahead. We'll put out a headline, turmoil ahead, and Bitcoin could, be for sure caught up in all of that risk off behavior, and we could see what would, looking back, be a mini bear. But a mini bear has just been consolidation so far. Anytime you these are people calling mini bears. This is a bull market. These aren't bears. This is just simple corrections and consolidations ahead. I guess kind of just didn't look good last week. Last Wednesday, this looked like a bad call. I suppose the China-US favorable weekend is now making this. You never know. You never know. There's nothing easy about it. That's for sure. Whoop whoop. Craig, 5 years with CTM. Lots of love. You're such an important part of this whole journey, and your support is phenomenal, and grateful for it. Thank you for everything, Craig. Well, I think we're about to see also. Remember, you used to hear these liquidity experts, 2026. It looks like China's about to turn on the hose a little bit over here. Oh, okay. Let's put a trend line onto Ethereum. I didn't see that. Let me jump down over here. Yeah, I'm watching so far. I should remove this sell impulse that we tagged. That was a big sell impulse, but just zoom out a little bit and come back to a higher time frame. We're watching two things. The yellow line is, you could see the resistance, breakout, and retest, and continues to hold. We showed you on the daily what's even more exact, and you all know why it's correct, and you can see the two touches here now, and it's just the way that we do our TA. I'm just trying to keep the chart cleaner. And then we have right over here the horizontal line, and that's the area to watch. Do we have a larger sell impulse in play? I think so. Let's see. Yeah, look at that right there. That we want to overcome with haste. We're into it right now. I don't really think that. Let me try to get this really well. We have to recover that. So Ethereum, a couple $100 under a little bit. Hold your breath type moment here. Still under pressure. We had the first sell impulse here, and since then, price broke above here. So is that invalid? Let me go ahead and check that out over there. I don't like that so much. We got 1, 2, 3, so it's in play. It's fuzzy down here. I like everything to be tight and clean, even in a higher. I mean, yeah, I guess you're never out of the woods until you're roaring in the bliss. And at this point, Ethereum here is probably keying off of the Fed and the end of QT and whether or not they resume up the balance sheet. This could be a fantastic week for risk. And if so, we could see Ethereum here very quickly, all of a sudden, everyone's favorite once again. Bitcoin getting close here to catching silver. Things are moving quickly. We'll love to see Bitcoin take back the spot above silver again. God bless you. Thank you so much for that. You guys all mean the world to me. That means a lot for me for coming from you to hear. Thank you for that. Couple other things. I just want to come back. Watching oil, because if oil, oil is obviously under a lot of pressure. I think that had a lot to do with Trump and his visits to Saudi Arabia and getting the Saudis to keep outputs high. But I'm watching if indeed we see any type of reversal here, and this would be the first, black diamond. We're in a downtrend. This is highly aggressive. Whatever, for whatever reason, I'm zoning in on it now. That's usually a sign. And if we see oil break out and then break out over here, inflation is going to be kicking up. And you could see over here, looking at true inflation's gauge of it, you could see that even with these lower oil prices, inflation's been kicking up. And it could for a while. And again, my own belief is that shelter comes off, a year from now, or a year from now, it's off further than it is today. The only thing that is always a wild card there, if at any point in time the Fed is forced to come in with a major devaluation, then housing just gets away, easily. So that's a wild card. That's something we're tracking. This chart fascinates me. Come back to that. NASDAQ looks good. What's next on the NASDAQ? We could jump back over to here and come back to a dip. Like we have made the new, it's so interesting. Coming back over here, let's tell the story a little bit further. After taking out the 2024 high, the NASDAQ has continued up now without retesting lower. Like often you'll see price come back down, test in lower, able to it's not very often it gets away like this. It's getting away. Again, people talk about that we're late cycle, and that late cycle talk has been, some people are bringing it up in this window now as 4-year cycle is in the area. Other people, since the Fed cut rates in September, and I think that's one of the most pivotal things. I'm so glad that came up in this conversation. Just want to jump back over here and just make sure I get the date of the last Fed meeting, and that was on the 17th. Yeah, the 17th of September. And since the 17th of September, this is really important from my view. Since the 17th of September, because I was waiting for a month to pass. Now we have a month has passed. So you could see a month later, and I'll go to just 1 month later. There you go. Nope. There you go. So 30 days later, you saw NASDAQ up 2%, which means S&P was up, I don't know what the S&P was up. Let's figure out what the S&P is up. We have to drill in from the S&P here. S&P up 0.5%. And why that's important is because we want to know, right? Are they cutting into a recession? Are they cutting into normalization? And here's the thing, that in the past, panic cuts, you see 1 month one month later, panic cuts are the most bullish. Let me leave there, because I just looked. I don't have the chart to pull up with you, but I've shared with it and showed you so many times. If they're cutting into a recession, usually 30 days later, markets are off about, let's just say, 1%. 3 months later, 11%. A lot within 3 months. But they're off the most if it's a recessionary cut, and they're off about 1%. And if they're cutting into normalization, they're normally off like unchanged, slightly red, but unchanged. And we're seeing signs that they're cutting into normalization. Markets up. That's very rare. And this is indeed, it's not like the cut in September 2024 when people were like, that was one and done. This is the first cut of a series of cuts to come because they're cutting on Wednesday. Markets up. Again, are we late cycle? A lot of people thought we were late cycle last time Fed cut in September 2024. We're definitely not early cycle. And the only people I hear saying anything about early cycle, now we're not early cycle, are the people who just think that we're about to hit into an imminent crash and deflationary burn here and recession. But no, we're 3 years into a bull market. There's nothing early about that. But generally speaking, there's still the potential here to go quite a ways. So J Cora, as far as what's next? Oh, what's next on resistance? Sorry. So I think I have to pull up an old chart for resistance. And I'm trying to see that line that we've been tracking, what type of, like, how it indeed lines up. And I don't have it clear. J Cora, I know I've shared like a structure of the NASDAQ with everyone. And for tomorrow's session, for fun, I'm gonna pull it up so we could look at what is my view of where that resistance is, and it's very detailed. So I think that would be the place to pull it. I don't think that we could use this particular line here because I don't know if it's structure or not, and I just don't know if it's structure, and if it is structure, we could be pushing into pretty quickly in this area of 20. But then the thing is there it's not resistance in so much as whatever structure is, whatever it is, like it goes back all the way towards, just looking at the top, like wherever that is up there. So I don't know what the next near term resistance is. I guess 26, whatever we just looked at, 300 is probably near term resistance. But I could get into it for sure a lot. Yeah, on the other chart, I'll get into it a lot. Tom is right. So, of course, Japan launched the JPYC, first yen-backed stablecoin. It's only backed by the yen? Oh my, or is maybe it's backed by, well, come on. That sounds silly anyway. It was backed by Japanese bonds, but maybe. And it's built on Ethereum, government compliant bank backed stablecoin that gives Ethereum foothold into Asia's $7 trillion market. And that's seems to be where the central banks are going onto Ethereum. Interesting. What else? I don't know how I just got a little bit sidetracked over here. So positioning. First of all, we have NVIDIA able to take a position and hold it. It's got such a tight stop loss. And currently almost 1% into profit now. And then this morning also FNGU taking a long position also. Major gaps up on both of them. Major gap up on FNGU. And then we have enter long pending now for the Bitcoin spot ETFs. So we're about to get 50% allocated into equities. And then we have MicroStrategy, Tesla, and TQQQ all sidelined currently right now. And then we have Bitcoin bull runs is still out of the market over here in the consolidation. And we have swing trading. BTC 107 is in the market, and now Ethereum is in the market. check this out over here. Solana was able to exit that position into slight profit. All 4 Bitcoin swing trading models are live, and BTC 108 is matching what the forward test here. Let me show you of CTM XV4. You can see that they caught the same entry over here, up 3.6% on that current trade. And our Ethereum trade is slightly better, by the way. So it's about 0.7% better on our Ethereum entry than the V4. This one has the better entry on Bitcoin and matching our 108, high performer 108. Sushi stablecoin. Are they called? I was just wondering, D-Power, was that going to be the nickname of the JPYC? But obviously not. But it should be. That would be fun. So yeah. So I want to dig into this for tomorrow, and BTC 101 for 2025. Now, 2025, right? You were seeing mostly starting the year over here, in January 2025. We're stuck for a second. Year starting off in over here, $97,000. Call trade. It's sideways, right? And then we have 101. I don't honestly think that V4 did much better. Down 9.5%. V4 did not do much better. V4 during that period is up likely. Like what's your buy side only? You never followed up. Buy side boost performance for 2025. And then you have over here, yeah, this is already set to 2025. But V4, is not doing much better, significantly better. It's a difference of 25%, but not much better, but better. Coming soon. Gio, ¿qué tal? David, please let me know. Ethereum carrying the torch here in 2025, but the architect himself, Phoenix Fire, very interested to know what Bitcoin now holding its gains. Like to see that coming into such an important week. I want to get through this one unscathed. I want to be able to feel Bitcoin roaring in the bliss 2025, playing some catch up. It's going to be interesting too now, as far as a lot of people look at. So here's one thing. Let me get rid of the Bitcoin. I'm watching oil and gold right now in this period. Now Bitcoin, and a lot of people are looking at 2025, right? What's that 2025 performance? And you can see that, hold on. Close enough. Gold outperforming Bitcoin in 2025. And I'm like, well, it doesn't really make sense. It's, Bitcoin just had a 50% up on election day because of the new administration. And then if you look from that point, you see that Bitcoin is actually outperforming gold. So it's going to be interesting to see this year, right? The year calendar winding down, but we're moving into November, December. We get through this week with the green light. I think that we see, even from the calendar year, Bitcoin play catch up over here and wind up taking the crown, outperforming gold. So that's okay. It's been a flat year. That's okay. Grinding it out. No. Well, I don't see a reason that Bitcoin would be down 40% in 2026. And I imagine that, yeah. So I imagine Bitcoin is up in the first quarter of 2026. So I don't see a reason to do that. Um, I don't see a reason to do that. But look, Chio, you know, if things change, we'll try to be ahead of it. We'll try to be ahead of it for sure. And it will, and if anything changes, because the macro can change rapidly, and I have ideas and opinions about what's ahead, and they're definitely not aligned with a lot of people. Recession 2026, 4-year cycle, yada yada yada, liquidity coming out. I don't. Again, I'm always worried and checking, but there's the only things I'm concerned about are happening this week. We get through that into the end of the year. I get it. People are like, oh, it's sell the news. I'm bullish into the end of the year. And then we'll continue staying ahead of it and doing our best to stay on the right side. That's all we could do, right? That's what we have to do. But right now, today, Gio, I don't see a reason to sell Bitcoin and look for it to come off 40% unless we get a nice breakout. If we were to see Bitcoin like break out even from this resistance right here, these two touches, it breaks above here and it gets some nice rise, probably into whatever that resistance is right above us, right? Yes, yes, if that's happening, Bitcoin, in my opinion, I'm looking for that sell impulse with you, and it's not going to be a 30% correction, and it's likely going to be a 40% correction if that's occurring. But I I don't see that occurring right now, you know? And if it does, like we break out 125 and then Bitcoin starts ripping and it comes into here. I don't care if it's in 2025 or early 2026. We see it break this line and catch a stronger upgrade into the next resistance, then very clearly and closely watching for what would be a sell impulse. And that sell impulse is likely something that you want to probably be aware that you could see a 40% drawdown out of. All right, everyone. That's a strong Monday. I'll see you all back tomorrow here. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Hit that bell icon. We'll be back here tomorrow. Everyone else, I'll see you out on the inside. Have a beautiful day, everyone. God bless you.